we get 2-3-0 series. I wonder what that means. Another 3-0 after? That's not what it means. Hi, my name's Sebastian. This is Vision Denial on the road to MSI, where I go through all 12 regions playoff series and watch every single one of them. Yes, including that one. Let's get to it. Today we got Top Esports versus EDG for the second of 3 quarterfinals. Is that correct? No, there's 4 quarterfinals? They just did it weird? Yeah. Losers brackets need better terminology. At least the fighting game community got it. Anywho, this was cool. We got Top Esports, who was on a tear, against Suning, who was even bigger tear, and then they lose to EDG in, I wouldn't call it like convincing 3-0. No, not convincing. Because it was competitive. Like, there were aspects of it that were very competitive. So I'm going to go with the things that I didn't like necessarily. I don't like that this was just like 3 mirror matchups. Yeah, they're just like, both teams are like, yo, we're going to play dittos. It's going to be fucked only. Final destination, no items. Let's go! And honestly, cool. That's great. It doesn't add a lot of variety, but it does show at least which team better understands how to build a composition for one specific type of play and who is better at executing it. And 3 for 3 was EDG. Not like, there's just nothing to say other than EDG was better at building the compositions by pick and ban. I don't have any like gripes from any of it. They pulled out some interesting stuff that was creative, but still didn't try to reinvent the wheel. It was just an alternative pick that people don't think about. It didn't do anything flashy or fancy or try to make you rethink the game in some way. It was just something else. I'm speaking specifically in game 2, their Sejuani top pick. They did a double bait where they thought Volibear was going to go top and Sejuani in the jungle, and they just switched it, and functionally towards their composition it does nothing, and functionally in terms of like how the laning matchup was going to work, it does something in terms of like who 369 had to face. Like what the matchup had to look like in the laning phase itself, but long term didn't do very much to change anything. It was just creative and added something to it, and that's the kind of thing that I like to see. I like that when twists are brought up, that they're not there to reinvent the wheel, they're just there to understand how the wheel works and then just bring up a different tool that works with the wheel, doesn't reinvent anything crazy. So that was good. EDG's level 1s through 5 vision is great. Like, I cannot stress enough how good this is. Like, it is not the most comprehensive vision, but they always knew where Karsa was. And I couldn't ask for something better. And that's not to say that Top's vision play wasn't good. No, Top's vision play was excellent. It was just EDG had always a step up, despite the fact that Top Esports usually had the tempo lead, save for Game 3, where Top Esports decided to like mellow out for some reason and only try to be proactive in some weird moments. But yeah, this was a masterclass on how to absorb pressure from somebody who is always engaging into you and how to answer that. That was cool. This is essentially just like a mirror of the game, like the last game, or the last series, where FPX was the one that kept having the tempo lead, and RNG was the one that was absorbing and answering cross-map or in different ways properly. But this time, it was the one who was answering EDG here that got the better of it all. Now, the thing to expect now is that because there's a losers bracket, we're gonna get the same kind of matchup again, where you got one team that has tempo lead versus a team that absorbs super hard, and we're gonna get that 2 more times. And that's kind of bonkers. Like, that's cool. I can't ask for something better. And if, depending on how things go, we could get that for all 6 games. And that'll probably give a very good litmus test on the meta overall, because this region has shown more often than not that being the one who answers the plays usually doesn't pan out as well as somebody who keeps putting in the plays. But EDG was the best team so far to show how to answer that. And I think that's interesting, because they didn't do anything that I would consider notable, other than... Okay, they did do one thing notable. And I wrote it down for some reason. Not for some... I wrote it down for a reason. And that's that EDG has a tempo lead and strong movement map, and shows that TES don't know how to play from behind, but that TES are still being proactive. And it gives me a better understanding that the teams that have been aggressive are doing so that it doesn't give time for the enemy team to think. But EDG know how to be aggressive and proactive. They're just opting in to not do so. But when they did opt into it, they did well. It wasn't as breakneck speed, but they did pretty well, all things considering. Granted, it was a game that like flip-flopped the tempo lead, and ended up with just a lot of fights around Dragon and Baron. It showed the least impressive Baron use out of almost all of the playoff series so far that I've seen. Or not the least impressive, but like some of the least impressive Baron uses. And it worries me because it just tells me that EDG is probably not going to do super hot against Fun Plus Phoenix. I don't know. And I mentioned this because if one of 2 scenarios is going to happen, they're either going to play aggro, but in a way that is not as breakneck speed and a lot more measured. And personally, I would prefer a team do that. But in the cases of this meta, your breakneck speed has to be breakneck. Like, you cannot take your foot off the gas. Or they're going to answer, and we've seen how RNG did it, and it wasn't as good. Now, I don't know what's the next Chinese game? What's that game look like? So the next game from China is RNG versus TES. So to me, the thing that'll probably likely give me an indication of who's going to win versus FPX versus EDG is how does RNG match up against TES? Because if TES beats RNG, that doesn't tell me anything, right? It just tells me that breakneck speed is good. Congratulations, fun times. But if RNG beats TES, then I don't think EDG has a chance. And this is not like your A equals B and A equals C, then B equals C type scenario. It's more like if FPX is able, well, I guess it kind of is, but it's more like, stylistically speaking, if FPX is a better team at doing the rush down style and never letting you think, and RNG respond the exact same way that EDG does to top esports, to top, that EDG did, then I don't see how EDG responds differently than how RNG responded against FPX against FunPlus. I mean, I guess it is the A equals B, A equals C means B equals C mentality. There's a lot more moving pieces to it, primarily because the pick and bans themselves, I think EDG had the cleanest set of pick and bans and the more creative approach to them. I think that it's fun that they did a lot of mirror matchups. I don't think FunPlus will give them the chance to do mirror matchups or to actually properly execute on those creative picks, because FPX has shown to be much more creative. Did I say that right? Yeah. Sorry, EDG is one of the more creatives, not is the most creative. Is one of the more creative pick and banners, but FPX has been more creative and has a history of being more creative. And this is a lot of speculation. I mention this because, like, it's fascinating to look at this region and see something wildly different than everyone else, where the team that is like the go is punished more often than not and beats out the and then loses out to the team that is just measured in weights. And in this region, that is 100% not the case. Or not 100%, that's like 90% not the case. And depending on how these next 4 series in China go, I think sets the mood for the internet, for all of MSI, 100%. Unless something wild happens in Vietnam when we get to it, which it's coming up actually. Vietnam is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 series away. Countdown. Anywho, things I want to see change. I want to see top be more measured in ways that are not just passive. I want them to put more, like, keep up the pace, but do so in a way that isn't like, okay, we got to do this now, so do this now. It's more like, okay, we got to do this. Here are the steps, then do it. Like slow it by half a step, just half, and think about it just like half a step, and then you probably would end up with cleaner things, because sometimes your top has players that are just like randomly trudging along afterwards. And I think that there doesn't need to be a reliance on these split pushing tactics from top. Now, honestly, top and FunPlus have been fantastic at these split pushing compositions, the 1-4 and the 1-3-1 compositions, but I think that relying on them too much could be detrimental. Stick to basics first for now. You can school on a bunch of random small regions when you make it to the international tournament, but stick to basics. EDG, put the pedal to the metal, buddy. Like, just a little bit more. Even if you're not going to go the full-on aggro methodology, even just the way you respond needs to be a little bit, like, more. Just a eensy bit more. Granted, all of these games have already been played, but that's what I would like to see in the coming up series. You guys let me know in the comments down below. Next up, we've got Berjaya Dragons versus J-Team. Is that correct? I wrote down, yeah, Berjaya Dragons versus J-Team. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.